Hey guys, Helen Hartsmith here again from the Heart of the Witch's Path YouTube channel. Hope you're having a good day. I am. It's time to do another video for the little series that I've got going on that's based on the article by Christopher Penczak, over 50 things every witch should try at least once. I'm really excited about this list and I hope you guys are enjoying it as much as I am. So I was hoping the next item on the list is something that I haven't done, and so I was hoping to actually do that and film it for you last month because it involves the full moon, and unfortunately the full moon came that night. I think I was sick or something, and quite frankly it was cold. January, full moon, probably not the best time to do something outside at night. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip that one for the moment. And we're going to come back to that one when the weather is more conducive to being outside. How's that? Okay. So we're going to skip down and we're going to talk about the next three. I feel like if I talk about 3 things at a time, then that makes for a decent sized video and it keeps it kind of consistent. So we're going to try to stick with that, okay? So the next one on the list is talk to an angelic being. They might not be what you are expecting them to be. And I have to say that I wholeheartedly agree with this. You know, so many of us come to paganism, witchcraft, Wicca. We come from a Christian upbringing, exposed to angels within that system of belief. And for me personally, when I came to witchcraft and heard that there were folks that were working with angels, I thought it was a little strange. And I guess, you know, you can chalk that up to a couple of things. Me not knowing any better, me being naive and unknowing, and me being, you know, wanting to distance myself from Christian concepts. But I have to say that I have had some exposure to working with angels. If you are into ceremonial magic, you're going to have a lot of exposure to working with angels. And I read a book recently by Damien Eccles that I did do a book review on, where he talked about his work with angels and archangels quite extensively. I'll go ahead and put a link for that book review in the description box in case you're wondering. But I have found that through my personal work, and I haven't done a whole lot of work with angels, but I've done a little bit. I've dipped my toes in, so to speak, and I've specifically worked with the Archangel Gabriel, and he's been a very helpful guide for me. And so I would say that if you haven't worked with angels, then look into it. I did do a year of blog posts where I talked about angels. And I don't think that I have a master list for that, for all of those posts. If I do, I'll put one in the description box if you want to kind of get into a little bit more of, you know, the angels that are out there. But I agree. I think that it was definitely work that I didn't anticipate. And it was no different working with angels than it is working with stone spirits or plant spirits or other deities. So if you haven't done so already, then I highly encourage you to look into angel work, okay? So the next on the list is to gather smooth stones from a shoreline. I love this one so much. Use them in magic. While I love a variety of minerals, some of the best magic has just been with smooth ocean or river stones. Again, I have to completely agree with Christopher on this one. There is something to be said about being on a shoreline, whether that be a lake, an ocean, a river. I happen to be extremely lucky for the state that I live in. There are a lot of bodies of water, and there are a lot of places where you can go find river stones. And they're gorgeous. They have a life all their own that is different feeling from other crystals that I work with. And I think that you could definitely have some real magical experiences with them. And I grabbed a couple of things that I have personally made with rocks that I have collected. And so without taking a ton of time, I did a DIY video recently where one of the options was to make a runestone set. You know, how you can make runes with different items that you can do yourself. So these are some of the runes from my set. Now you can also do, there's the witches runes that you could draw. Though I just used a Sharpie marker on those and drew the runes. You could do a witches rune set if you were into something like that. Another thing that I've also done is I've used them for bind rune purposes. So this is a bind rune for success that I have drawn on this, and then you can empower it with that intention. And this is something that you can slip in your pocket and carry with you. I've done that. I've had it like in my purse. I also have one that has a bind rune for Odin Father that I will carry. Something like this you could do and put on an altar. Like the Odin rune, bind rune, I could totally put that on my Odin Father altar and leave it there as something that I made to honor him, an offering that I made to honor him. You're not limited to just runes either. There's all kinds of sigils. If you make your own sigils, you can definitely draw those on stones like this. And now these are relatively small. There are larger stones that you can find. There's a really neat stacking stone feature called an Inukshuk that has origins in Native American lore, and it also has, I believe it has origins in some other areas as well. I'm not super well versed in that subject, but what it is you take flat stones depending on how big of a structure you want, and you stack them, and then you create this Inukshuk. And I believe, it is my understanding, and if somebody else knows more about this, I totally invite you to chime in, because like I said, I just have a basic knowledge, but I believe it's a form of protection. So you could definitely do, I've seen large pieces that are out in a yard as a yard decoration. And I've also seen smaller ones that you would have inside your home. So you could do something like that with rocks that you have collected. And it's kind of neat because I feel like when you use something in that manner, you have the memories of where you picked this up from and what have you, and you pair that with magic, and depending on where or when you picked it up, I mean, there's a lot of ways that you can like intermingle all of that with your magic and have it to be something that's like extra meaningful. So for instance, I'm trying to think of something off the top of my head. If you picked up a rock that was, I'm trying to think, like if you wanted something for prosperity, maybe if you picked up a rock that was near some kind of financial epicenter, like maybe Wall Street, something like that might be a little kind of a stretch to do so. But if you picked up a rock around Wall Street and then brought it home and put a sigil for success or for money draw or something like that, then see how you're weaving those things together, and that can heighten your magic. Something to think about. Okay, that was so off the cuff. And then finally, read a witchcraft book by someone whom you disagree with a lot. As you read it, keep asking yourself what exactly you are feeling and why does it matter. Now, this, I think that there's definite value in an exercise like that. I don't think that the intention here is to necessarily like read something from someone who might be considered like a person of hate. Like, I probably wouldn't read writings from Adolf Hitler. I don't think that's the spirit in which Christopher is intending this. I think it's more along the lines of, if you, for instance, my coven, we do book study. We will pick a book and we will read it together. Okay. Now, I didn't know that I necessarily didn't agree with this person until I read it. But we read a book by Raven Grimassi, and I don't get his style. I don't get his style of writing. I don't get his style of how he does things. None of it like really jives with me, but I don't consider the experience or the time from reading that book to be a waste of time. There are a lot of people that agree with Raven Grimassi's writings and get a lot out of it. And so that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to click with everybody, and that's okay. I at least have the experience, and there were one or two things that I did take from the book that made it worthwhile that I read it. And so that kind of comes back to, for me anyhow, it comes back to Christopher's style of presenting information when he teaches. He introduces you to all different kinds of ideas that might not necessarily click with you in that's how, oh, I'm going to incorporate everything that he teaches me into my practice. That doesn't necessarily happen, and he doesn't expect it to. And he will tell you that in his books. But it's important to have the knowledge. The knowledge is power, and if you understand something, then if you have a basic understanding, like I don't do ceremonial magic, but I have a basic understanding of it, that if somebody mentions the LBRP, I at least know what they're talking about. If they talk about a rosy cross, I at least know what that is. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, how can you know if something is going to be of value to you and your practice on your path if you don't know about it? So it's a good exercise to read something that you're not familiar with, or from somebody that you don't agree with, because there's still value in the knowledge. Okay? So those are the 3 things from the list that I wanted to cover in this video. I hope you liked it. If you did like it or learned something from it, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button. Trying to get lots of fresh things happening here, and I'd love to have you come back and check it out. Also, hit that bell notification. Apparently that's something that's pretty important as well. Have you done any of these 3 things that I've talked about, Or are you interested in doing any of those 3 things? Please let me know about your experiences in the comments. I will have links for the book that I talked about, and if I have a master list for my angel posts on the blog, I'll put that in the description box as well. So thank you for spending some time with me, and thanks for walking the path for a little while with me. Until next time, blessed be.